Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us in our 2021 Fall Conference presentation today. My name is Danielle Whitman, and I've been with the state for 3 years now. I'm a senior accountant for OSC's Bureau of State Accounting Operations in the Budgets and Spending Unit. Today, I would like to tell you about what an appropriation is and what our section does. The Budgets and Spending Unit is responsible for establishing, maintaining, and reporting on the appropriations for all New York State agencies that are enacted by legislature and authorized by the Budget Director. This includes reappropriation and lapsing of appropriation records and requesting any chart of account changes that are needed for proper appropriation control and reporting. We also monitor negative personal service charges and prompt payment interest errors. Appropriation bills will give New York State agencies authority to spend up to a certain amount for a variety of purposes. These purposes include things such as payroll for employees, contractual, supplies, materials, and infrastructure. Once the budget is passed, it is our unit's responsibility to establish these appropriations into the statewide financial system and update any lapse dates for the ones that have been reappropriated. Once the appropriations are posted in SFS, agencies will then have the ability to use them. The Budgets and Spending Unit is also responsible for reviewing and approving transactions submitted by agencies dealing with the appropriations budget. These transactions include accounts payable journal vouchers, known as APJVs, adjustment vouchers, known as refund of appropriations or ROAs, general ledger journal vouchers, and budget journals, which move authority between different appropriations. Our unit also has a variety of other tasks and reports that must be completed daily, monthly, and annually, depending what is requested or required by law. An appropriation is a statutory authorization to make expenditures during the state fiscal year. During this time period, agencies can make disbursements for purposes designated in the budget bills, up to the stated amount of the appropriation if allowable by DOB. These disbursements will be made in accordance with the budget and state finance law as followed. By the State Department or agency in the budget bill, payable from the specified fund, for the named program and bill copy, and for a specified purpose. Most appropriations are available for one fiscal year, which is April 1st through March 31st. Although the fiscal year ends on March 31st, there is a carryout period for outstanding liabilities that are already incurred. This carryout period ends at lapsing. Looking at our state finance law, section 40, you will find liability periods, appropriation periods, and lapse dates. In the state constitution, a 2-year life is the maximum life of an appropriation. There are several different types of appropriations. There's state operations, local assistance, debt service, and capital. For state operations, these appropriations will fund state agencies' operational needs, such as personal service, which includes salaries for state employees, non-personal service, this includes supplies, travel, utilities, and other operational costs, and general state charges such as fringe benefits and fixed costs. Local assistance includes grant payments to local governments, school districts, and non-for-profit organizations, and aid to localities will provide financial assistance to individuals and families. We have debt service. This is for principal and interest on state and public authority debt. This includes lease to purchase and contractual obligations. It also includes programs that have been financed with non-state debt and any other debt-related expenses. And then there is capital. These appropriations will fund state construction projects and provide state assistance for local government projects. Lapsing is a fiscal year event that closes out appropriations that have exceeded their lapse date and are no longer available for use. This is the event that closes out the carryover period for outstanding liabilities. Unless these funds are reappropriated, these appropriations will lapse on certain dates depending on what type of appropriation it is. State operations will lapse on June 30th. Local assistance, debt service, Legend Judy, and capital projects on September 15th. SUNY and CUNY on September 30th, and all 2-year appropriations will lapse on March 31st. Agencies are responsible for ensuring that all transactions that are affecting lapsing appropriations are posted in SFS prior to their lapse date. No payments or adjustments are allowed from the appropriations after they lapse. Prior to lapsing, our unit will run several reports. We have the NYKK004. This is the appropriations due to and not due to lapse. These reports will be reviewed by the agencies to ensure they are correct. If any discrepancies are found, the agency should reach out to their OSC accountant and also CC the appropriations mailbox. The email should include where the appropriation can be located in the budget bill so that discrepancies can be corrected before lapsing. We have the NYKK0264. This is the negative segregation balance report. On a monthly basis, our section emails any agency that has a negative segregation that is about to lapse. We will reach out to you multiple times leading up to lapsing so we can get these cleared. During lapsing, if you have any negative segregations that are about to lapse, we'll reach out to you multiple times. All negative segregations must be cleared prior to lapsing because these cannot by law lapse in the red. We have the NYAP 1547. This is pending transactions for lapsing budgets. Agencies should be reviewing these various 1547 reports that show transactions against budgets that are about to lapse. Ideally, we would like to see all transactions on these reports cleared before lapsing. This will ensure any transactions the agency wants posted in SFS have been, and the transactions that are no longer needed should be deleted prior to lapsing. With these reports, we will reach out to our agencies and provide them with information about upcoming lapsing transactions. These transactions include accounts payable, general ledger journal vouchers, budget transfers, negative segregations, and FBICs. We will work with our agencies to make sure all transactions are cleared prior to lapsing. Agencies can also refer to the GFO, Chapter 17, Section 3, for lapsing guidance and lapsing transaction deadlines. Next, we will move on to what an appropriation language looks like in the budget bill. This example is from the State Operations, Chapter 50, for the Department of Economic Development for administrative expenses. Let's take a look at line 10 that reads Administration Programs in all caps. This is the Major Level 2 program. Under the major program, there will be appropriations listed. On line 25 in this example, you will see in parentheses program 81001. This is our level 3 budgetary program. Most appropriations will contain one budgetary program and bill copy unless it is brand new. In that case, OSC requests one brand new budgetary and one transactional program code from SFS. For more on this, see GFO section 6.2a, Appropriations and Segregation Overview. Now let's look into the budget overview. Once OSC adds the budgets to SFS, agencies can view their budgets in the budget overview. Agencies can get to the budget overview by first going to the Navigator button, then select Commitment Control, and from there select Review Budget Activities, then finally select Budget Overview. From here, you would start a new search, which you can name whatever you would like. We tend to use the business unit we are reviewing. The business unit and ledger group would be entered, and then the budget periods. As you can see, I give a wide range for the to and from budget periods, so I don't have to keep changing it every time I use this search. Then make sure to check both boxes on that line for the include adjustment periods and include closing adjustments. Then move on to entering the chart field information. Here you can either enter some or all of the chart field values. In this example, we'll leave the account as a percentage sign, and by doing this, it will provide us with all the accounts we have this budget set up with. Don't forget to save your search so you can use it again. Then the next time you use it, you will just have to update the SFS values as needed. Once everything is filled out, hit the search button at the top to see the results. To learn more about this, you can go to the GFO section 6.1b budget overview. In this slide, we see the results from the criteria we entered in SFS from the previous slide. As you can see, at the top of the screen shows the total appropriation amount from the budget bill. This also displays any expenses, encumbrances, and pre-encumbrances against those budgets. The net of those is what is available for spending. Encumbrances deal with purchase orders against a specified appropriation. Looking at the bottom of the screen, you will see how much segregation authority is for personal service regular. That's account 50100. There are two different ways that you can see the transactions that make up these amounts. The first way to view these transactions would be in the budget overview screen. You will see blue hyperlinks under budget, expense, encumbrance, and pre-encumbrance. Click on one of those to drill down and view the details. In this example, I have clicked on the expense hyperlink. It shows the expenditures that hit against this budget. From here, if you want to go into the actual voucher, you would have to select the spyglass. When looking at the budget overview, it will provide us with the current status of the budget at this moment. The second way to view the appropriation and segregation would be to run the DW 620 report in SFS Analytics, dealing with the appropriation budget overview. To get to this report, you would go to SFS Analytics tile on the home screen in SFS. And there you would click on Budget Reports and find the DW 620 report. The DW 620 report also has blue hyperlinks that can be used to drill down on those expenses. Here you can enter the same criteria that we used for the budget overview. Once the criteria has been entered, you can drill down further using those hyperlinks. The main difference between using the budget overview and using the DW 620 report is the budget overview is limited on how many budgets it will display at once, but the information is current. For the DW 620 report, you can actually run it for all of your agency's appropriations, and the data is usually for the previous business day. Now let's move on to chart of accounts, known as COA. The COA is the foundation of the statewide financial system. It provides each business unit, department, fund, project, program, and account within the state a unique identification number to identify financial transactions. This is what is used to keep track of transactions for each appropriation. The chart of accounts provides the state with common language for transactions, analytics, and reporting. It also helps to show where money is being spent and received. These accounts are defined by a series of identifiers known as chart fields. Please see GFO section 5.1 labeled Chart of Accounts, Governance Overview, and Policies to learn more about this. Now this slide shows us the different chart of account values that are used in SFS. As we can see, there are common ones used for statewide use, such as business unit, department, fund, and program. And then there are some chart fields that are agency specific, such as chart fields 1, 2, and 3, project, and activity. These chart of accounts will help us to monitor spending authority for a particular appropriation. Agencies can use the agency-specific chart fields to track spending as agencies needed at their level. The chart of account is what is used to establish the budgets in SFS so spending can happen. Here is an example from the DED appropriation discussed earlier with the budget overview. As you can see here, it shows us the fund, program, and BUDREF for this appropriation. Let's move on to the tree viewer, but first let me explain what a tree is. Trees are used by SFS to provide the framework for enabling data elements to roll up for reporting and budgeting purposes. The KK trees are there to provide a listing of values consistent with the budgeting structures, while reporting trees provide values consistent with the reporting structures. To get to the tree viewer, you will need to go to the Navigator button, select Tree Manager, and then select Tree Viewer. Once there, type in which tree you would like to view or just hit Enter. By hitting Enter, the entire list of trees that can be viewed will appear. Please make sure whichever tree you are trying to view, you are selecting the one with the most current effective date available. This will allow you to see the most up-to-date version of that tree. The tree that is pictured here is the KK statewide program tree. Transactions done by agencies, such as vouchers, accounts payable, and general ledger journal vouchers, must use transactional values in their accounting entries. Transactional values are the lowest level of a tree, and they will roll up to different budgetary levels depending on the tree. Different trees, such as program, account, and department trees are used for the different budgetary chart strings. See GFO Section 6.1a, Budgetary Chart Strings, for more about using the tree viewer. This slide shows us what a statewide program tree looks like in SFS and how someone would read it. For this example, we have the KK statewide program tree pulled up for a particular program. One of the first lines you see is program code 30305, which is the major program it is under in the budget bill. The second line shows program 30315, which is the budgetary value in bill copy and what is used to set up the budgets with. And then we see program code 30357, which is the transactional values that agencies would use on their transactions. Transactional values are not listed in the budget bill. And as you can see, there can be multiple level 3 budgetary programs under one major level 2 program. Multiple budgetary program values are needed to prevent appropriations from being commingled. Agencies can also request multiple transactional values for each budgetary value, based on the agency's specific needs through a COA request to SFS. Next, we will view the reporting statewide program tree for the same program. Whereas the statewide program tree shows budgetary and transactional roll-ups, this tree will show sub-programs under the major program from the budget bill. It is important to note that the only budgetary program values that will appear in this tree are the ones that were converted from CAS to SFS in 2012. For any new programs that will be added to SFS, only the transactional programs will be added to the reporting tree. In this example, we can see this major program for disaster assistance has 2 transactional values listed. Other programs may have more than just 2. And finally, we move on to the statewide account tree. This is where expense accounts are listed. This tree is similar to the statewide program tree in the same way that the transactional values for accounts will roll up to the budgetary account values shown in the budget bill. The account chart field identifies the type of resources required, and it also defines the purpose of the transaction. I would like to now say thank you for staying with me during the first half of our presentation, and we would like to answer any questions you may have so far before handing off the presentation to Molly, who will be discussing attributes.
Thank you, Danielle. We do have one question. On the budget overview, why should we include closing adjustments? The closing adjustments include the rollover that happens at fiscal year end. Any unused budget amounts are rolled over by SFS during fiscal year end processing. If the closing adjustments button is not checked, you might not get the full picture of the appropriation. Now, if you're looking at a current year appropriation, it will not matter since there was no rollover between fiscal years, but we find it easier to always include those closing adjustments. Okay, that takes care of all the questions that we've gotten so far. Now I will turn the presentation over to Molly.
Hi, my name is Molly Gibbons, and I've been with BSAO for 8 years now. I'm going to jump in and talk about appropriation attributes and budget exceptions. Each appropriation has a set of attributes, and the attributes in SFS link back to the budget bills and the information found within them. Appropriation attributes are the appropriation title, the lapse date, and if it's related to capital bill, a CCP code and a reference number. And the transactional attributes include the chapter, section, year of law, and the page and line. So let's take a look at how you would look these up in SFS. At the top of the slide is the path to the budget attribute window in SFS. You're going to search by entering your business unit and the ledger group, either KK-SAG or KK-APPROPS, in the search chart field criteria. This will bring you to the commitment control budget attribute screen that I'm currently showing now. Here you would enter the fund, program, and budget reference. You could add account and department, but leaving that out can sometimes show the bigger picture and can be helpful in certain situations. Next, you would hit fetch, and the lower section of the budget chart fields would populate, showing all the budgets that are in the SFS based on what you entered. To see the detail, we're going to click on the blue Set Options hyperlink. Here are the attribute detail from our search. You can see at the top the budget chart field string that we chose to look up, and right below that is the budget status for closed or open. This is important to note for the budget exceptions related to closed budgets. In the third section, you can see the appropriation title, which we use the major program taken from the budget bills, that is in all caps, that Danielle mentioned earlier, the lapse date, and the source code. The source code is leg, which means that the appropriation was created because it was in the budget bills. If the source code is DOB, that means it was created by an interchange, suballocation, or apportionment. If this was a capital appropriation, you'd also see the CCB code and reference number. In the final section at the bottom, there is the transactional attributes, which is each budget journal done in SFS with the corresponding chapter, section, log, page, and line where the appropriation is located in the budget bills. Now that we've covered the key ways to view appropriations information in SFS, let's take a look at the budget exceptions or errors. Understanding these errors can help agencies resolve issues, get transactions completed timely. Here are some of the most common exceptions and errors that occur in budget transactions, vouchers, refund of appropriations, and general ledger journals. We'll touch on each of them in the following slides. Let's start with how you would know if you have an error. In this slide, you can see in the lower right corner a highlighted E. While the location may vary depending on the type of transaction, you'll generally find something that says budget status or budget header status or either E, error, or exceptions. You'll be able to click on a hyperlinked E or exceptions or error to bring you to the budget error message. This slide shows the other way you may see an error. It's always suggested on budget journals that agencies perform pre-check of the budget status. In the process dropdown, you can choose budget pre-check. Running this will let you know if you have any issues before submitting it to DOB or OSC. The first exception is exceeds budget tolerance. In this case, there's not enough available budget authority to cover the expenditures. For these types of errors, the agency needs to see about getting more budget authority. So this screen shows you what the error is and what the related ledger group is. And if you click on the detailed magnifying glass, you'll see more information, which is shown on the next slide. If you select the line chart field tab from the previous slide, and it'll give you the specific budgetary chart fields related to exceeds budget tolerance error. Using this chart string, you can go into the budget overview and see how much available budget there is remaining. So if we continue to look into this exceeds budget tolerance issue more, you can see the amount that is trying to be moved is $2 million in this transaction. If we use the budget overview screen, as mentioned by Danielle, we find that we only have available roughly $1.5 million. As mentioned before, for these types of errors, the agency needs to see about getting more budget authority. This could be a suballocation, a transfer, or interchange. It all depends on what's allowable based on the appropriation language. The next exception is budget is closed. Appropriation budgets lapse or close when they cease to be available for spending, based on the dates required by state finance law. The lapse date will dictate when the appropriation budget will close. No new transactions may be processed against a budget once it has closed. We were able to see the lapse date listed when we used the budget attributes window to search a specific chart field. This error tends to happen right after lapsing when agencies attempt to continue use their lapsed budgets. Agencies need to verify they're using the correct chart string. In this case, the budget period fiscal year needs to be updated to 2021-22 as the budget period 2020-21 closed on March 31st, 2021. This screenshot shows the drill down for the journal with the budget exception with budget closed due to the budget period being from the prior fiscal year. We also see this error with GL journals at the beginning of the fiscal year, where agencies change the budget date on the transaction line to be before April 1st of the current fiscal year. Using this budget date would be the date the GL journal was created. But sometimes agencies change it for whatever reason, and they change the budget date to the previous budget period that is closed. This will also cause you to receive the budget is closed error on an appropriation, even though it's still active and open in the current budget period. Similarly, for budget is closed for lapsed appropriations, the appropriation has lapsed and not reappropriated in the current fiscal year budget bills. For example, with state ops, for the same program where not all accounts were reappropriated, in those instances where agencies need this budget open, they will need to work with their OSC accountant in order for them to be able to move new authority into these lapsed appropriations. If the agency believes that the budget is lapsed and closed in error, they need to provide us with the location of where it is in the current budget bill so we can verify and open up the budget. By drilling down into the detail of the error information, we can see the chart field string with the issue. If we look at the budget attributes, we can see that it was not reappropriated in 21-22. And the lapse date in the attribute search reveals that the appropriation was lapsed as of June 30th. Again, this is when you would verify you're using the correct chart field string, and should the budget reference be changed to an active appropriation. For a no budget exists exception, there are a few reasons why you would receive this budget error. It could be that there is just an incorrect chart field, which I would verify the chart fields to see where the issue lies. Searching the budget attributes, you may find that no attribute exists for that chart string, appropriation exists for that chart string, or that the budget lapsed in the previous budget period. If it lapsed in a previous budget period, that would explain why you're getting no budget exists error. We tend to see no budget exists error quite a bit dealing with state appropriations, where the agency budget bill does not line out authority for either their fringe benefits or indirect costs. Please remember to add those appropriation accounts in your budget bills. It'll save you from having to do interchanges to get authority in those budgets. For the budget exception, spending authority over budget, this happens when the transaction is trying to reduce expenditures and the agency has no expenditures, or they're trying to reduce more expenditures than they have, typically on an ROA or GL journal. By clicking on the magnifying glass shown in the previous slide, we're able to see the detail about the chart fields resulting in the exception. Agencies can use this information to further investigate the issue. DOB spending plan exceptions are for plans set up by DOB within the KK plan ledger, and the transaction exceeded the plan. You should work with your budget examiner to clear these errors. Similarly, an agency ledger or KKAG ledger budget can go over budget or simply have incorrect chart fields that need to be corrected. Since these KKAG or KK-OP-ORG are agency ledgers, you should work with your agency finance office to help you clear any errors on these ledgers. Project ledgers or KK project are project budgets set up by the agency, and these exceptions exceed the set budgets amounts. Once you verify that you have the correct project, you should see if you can increase the project budget. Also note that sometimes you will receive a budget date out of bounds error. For these errors, reach out to federalgrants@osc.ny.gov. This slide is showing how KK project has at least one chart field that is required that is blank and needs to be added. For example, on a project, it could be a missing activity code or chart field 1, 2, or 3. Here's the detailed message for the missing chart field. Sometimes the messages can be a bit cryptic. The OSC GFO is an excellent place to take a look to see the required chart fields for certain transactions. And lastly, insufficient cash. While it's not an error you will see while doing a transaction, OSC will reach out when there is an issue, so it's very helpful for agencies to check the cash balance of a particular fund before doing a GL journal. The entry will look like it posted, but it will only post to the non-accrual ledger and fail when SFS tries to post it to the cash ledger. Above is a report that is available that runs throughout the day that shows the GL journals that have failed to completely post due to insufficient cash of the fund. Vouchers also fail for cash, and OSC reaches out to agencies daily. This is what the report looks like, and you can see that the error message says exceeds budget tolerance. It exceeds the cash balance of the fund. This can be resolved by either moving revenue or money into the fund or reversing the original entry completely. And that wraps up our overview of reviewing appropriation information in SFS. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible today from our attendees, but if you find you have any other questions, please reach out to us at appropriations@osc.ny.gov.
Thank you, Molly. Looks like we do have one question. How or where does DOB restrict cash in SFS? So DOB basically has two ways that they control spending. First of which is by using the reserve segregation. So they can do a budget transfer to move authority from your regular segregation to your reserve segregation, and that makes it unavailable for agency spending. That's on the appropriation side. Now, on the cash side, they have the DOB ledger budgets that they use, and that's how they control the actual cash spending by using the DOB budgets, the financial plan budgets in SFS. And those are, OSC has no role in that. That's all up to DOB, and they set those up. It's different by agency how they set those up, but if you have additional questions, specific questions about those, you can reach out to your DOB examiner. And it looks like that wraps up all the questions that we have in the chat, but feel free to email appropriations@osc.ny.gov at any time with any additional questions. We would like to thank everyone for joining us today. We appreciate your attendance at the OSC Fall Conference, and we hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.